Welcome to another episode of Bringing Down the Grindhouse, a podcast where we talk about horror in media. And today we're talking about Tales from the Crypt. How's it going, John?
It's going well. How are you doing, Eddie?
I'm awesome. I'm just stuffed up with Bronson around.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, fuck. Did you bring your Benadryl?
Yeah, I'm Benadrylled up. So.
All right, nice.
So our studio has a resident cat.
Yeah.
My personal cat. I should say my roommate. I live with Bronson. I don't know him.
He pays the bills when he can.
He takes care of the house while I'm gone, so it works out.
He's kind of a loaf, to be honest.
He is.
As cats are.
He's a little bit of a freeloader, but it's okay because he keeps me company.
So, Tales of the Crypt.
Right.
Why did you pick this one, John?
I chose Tales of the Crypt because I used to watch it like when it was premiering, when HBO was like first a thing. So they kind of like, I feel like they got their start with shows similar to this, as well as like things like The Wire and other things that were really popular. And they had the unique position of not being like under certain restrictions for their content. So Tales from the Crypt had a lot of violence, it had a lot of cussing, and it had a lot of nudity and sex. So you had pretty much everything. Yeah, all the blood and gore, you had it all in one place. And so it's definitely made for adults, but I was totally not watching it as an adult just because I had access to HBO.
Minors watching nudity.
Right. Yeah, it's when you discover, like, you remember when you'd go onto those channels and you discover that the password is just all zeros? That's what happened.
Yeah. Oh, God.
That's what happened. I was like, whoa, shit, I can get into HBO, fucking Cinemax, or all the other. There you go.
I think for mine it was just lift the handle and you found...
Oh, just straight porno?
Yeah, probably.
Was it like magazines and stuff or like video?
Like videos.
Oh,
and
shit.
Whatnot.
Like VHS?
I don't want to go more into this story.
We're already
deep in this shit? Oh, fuck.
Was it like VHS?
They were VHSs, yes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say which parents
That's
it was.
fine.
Because it's not fair to them.
Name dropping.
So anyway, but yeah. It was VHS.
Now I don't know. I was thinking about it. I'm like, who could it possibly be?
Could have been either of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It could be either one.
They're not celibate people.
It's like your literal proof.
They birthed me. Anyway.
My folks are very celibate, except when they had my brother and I. But
and then after that, just they don't do it anymore.
Never.
Well, until I heard some weird haunting noises in the house one night.
Oh no!
Secret reason why you want to move out?
Possibly. I was just like, it's like Poltergeist. It's just what the fuck is that? No, not that. Not like.
That sounds like a zombie, kind of.
Yeah, I know. They're haunting noises.
You know what I enjoyed the most about the intros, though? Because I focused on the TV show. And so the TV show, each episode has an intro and an outro that has the Crypt Keeper. And the Crypt Keeper is this maniacal, like, dead skeleton who's, I don't know, he's probably like a demon or something like that.
He's a zombie.
Yeah, he's like a zombie. So he's like well aware of his like dead state and constantly tries to off himself. So like there's a few intros where he hangs himself, he like shoots himself in the face.
Oh my god.
He like ties himself up and like has a firing squad shoot at him.
I should have watched this instead of what I watched.
Yeah.
This is what I should have watched.
I watched the compilation, so it was like an hour of just all of the intros and all the outros, and it's hilarious. Like he'll be there and tell you these really bad like dad joke puns as like his intro. Like the very first episode, he talks about how like, oh well, that was shocking because it has to do with the electric chair.
Oh my god!
And then like puts himself in an electric chair and just sets like a bunch of volts through him while he's like maniacally laughing.
This sounds like an amazing experience.
So it was funny to watch that, and the Crypt Keeper became like its own thing, his own thing that you would see before, and like as it went on. He was
the host of the show, pretty much.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, exactly. He was like your host, and he would introduce the episode, and then you would get like a final thoughts from him. And then they also had special guests at some point, like Whoopi Goldberg showed up.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then
Tom Hanks.
What do they do? They just hang out with the Crypt Keeper?
Yeah, that like so the one with Whoopi, she shows up, and he was like, "Oh, I liked your new movie where you won like the Academy Award," and she was like, "Oh, thanks, but it's like
we're gonna
the color purple."
Yeah, he said the he like made an alternate title for it instead of saying the color purple. He said like something. I'll have to look it up and see what it is. But anyway, she like basically threatened him by the end of it, like with a machete. And you're like, oh shit.
And she's just like,
yeah, and he's just like freaking out, and then he ends almost all of the intros with his like maniacal laughter.
that's so
It's
cool.
really high pitched laugh.
You know, the voice actor had to apparently take drops of honey and lemon just to soothe his voice after that, I guess.
I bet, because he had like, it's a
Doing
very
hours of
specific
recording.
voice that he had to do. And then he also appeared in some of the TV episodes. The guy who does the voice for the Crypt Keeper, he randomly was like in the episode, so you would be able to see it. They even make a joke to it, like they like break the fourth wall, and they're like, "Hey, look at this guy. He looks super familiar." And it's because it's the guy who voices the Crypt Keeper. Like they like freeze frame on him. So it was enjoyable to go through those. As far as
After hearing all of this, I feel like there's so much content. There was so much Tales from the Crypt stuff. There are comics, there are movies, there TV shows, there's an animated TV series, there's like the
game
70s
show.
movies, and then there's the modern movies.
There's also a game show.
There's a game show.
There's a game show?
There's a game show apparently.
I know. I was just like Wikipediaing like Tales from the Crypt. And
Gotcha. So I was telling you all the associated
So that's one of the
bits.
extra things. So
yeah.
So I feel that us and the listeners are, well, mostly just us really, are going to have to go through and watch all of these.
The TV series
The
alone
TV series
has
alone,
93 episodes.
We should do a favorite episodes of that and just talk about them next time that we explore it. But I think getting a broad stroke of all of them would be good, though.
Yeah,
today, for sure.
Yeah, we'll go through just a few of the ones that we watched, but we're definitely going to revisit it in a future episode. Just because I'm going to binge watch it. I'm going to watch like every Tales from the Crypt episode.
Let me know when you got that available.
Right?
Wink,
yeah.
wink.
Yeah. Special.
You know what I mean, Eddie?
Special
You know what I
edition
mean?
DVDs.
Why are you giving me that look like that?
You know what I mean?
Some eyebrows were raised.
Do you want to get a room together or something?
No.
It's just like,
But I'm winking at you.
I don't know what you're offering, what you're dropping down.
I'm not dropping anything.
Uh,
This is a giant tangent.
So I watched the first 3 episodes. Well, actually, no, I watched the first 2 and then some random one later on, just because I was like, Christmas episode, let's watch that one.
All right.
So the first one I watched, I had to watch the first episode just so I can see like what was the intro to this show. And the first episode is a executioner who's the guy who pulls the switch on the electric chair, and he is very like righteous about his job and is just like, I love doing this, these guys deserve it, like there's no problem with killing these people. And then the state gets rid of capital punishment, gets rid of the electric chair, and so he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna start looking for these people and killing them myself. So he sits in on like court cases, and then the ones that they don't find guilty and he thinks that they're guilty, he goes and finds them and kills them until the police catch him, put him in the electric chair, and then he dies that way. And that's how like the whole thing ends.
Okay.
He like goes full circle and comes back and dies in the electric chair. So I watched that one, and then I watched the Christmas special one, which is basically just a guy escaped from the loony bin and dressed up as Santa and went to go kill people. So like the plot of Black Christmas.
Nice.
So yeah, it's like a super short
Garbage
version.
day.
Oh fuck. That one was especially funny to me because the main woman, she like murders her husband in the beginning of the episode to like run away with her lover, but then as she's trying to dispose of the body, the guy runs up on her in the Santa suit, and so she has to try to protect her and her daughter from getting killed by this guy who's just like crawling up the side of the house at one point like to get into the window.
Just imagine just
Right.
like climbing up the shit.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
so enjoyable. They seem very campy now that I watched them, probably because they were released like in the 80s. Like the first one was 85, I think, is when the first one premiered, and then it kept going through to like mid 90s, and then that they stopped making it. They were talking about doing a reboot, but M. Night Shyamalan wanted to do a reboot, but no one would purchase it from him, or no one would support him. They were like, no, we're not fucking doing that.
I think it was also a licensing thing too. That's
yes,
why.
from HBO.
I remember watching like part of that show like a long time ago, like maybe in the mid 90s, like probably around the time it ended, and then it was maybe given access more widely. I remember seeing episodes of it and whatnot, and I've actually, one of the films that I viewed from it, I'd actually already seen when I was a lot younger and watched because it was called Demon Knight, and that sounded cool.
What's that one about?
Demon Knight?
Yeah.
Is about it's like a prophecy sort of, prophecy, like a repeating prophecy sort of curse sort of thing. So you've got this man who carries this flask filled with, I believe it's the blood of Christ, that's been passed down, and then everyone who gets this flask gets like their blood enchanted with it, along with the blood that's in the flask. And there is a demon that's constantly chasing them. I can
played by Billy Zane.
Billy Zane, yes, there you go. It's the actor Billy Zane chasing him down in like a cowboy trench coat suit.
I love that part where he gets super pissed and he's like, "Fuck this cowboy shit, you ho dunk po dunk motherfuckers."
Yeah. He basically like he chases this guy down to this little I don't want to. I'll say it's like an inn sort of deal, an inn or like a motel sort of deal. It's like very small though. Maybe like only like 6 rooms in the whole house sort of thing. And so he shows up there, all the people are there and like, who the hell is this guy? And then, you know, he starts blessing all of like the windowsills and the doorways and everything. Okay. And then here comes Billy Zane blasting through with the cops and has the cops accost them all and start searching them for the item that this other supposed police officer, Billy Zane, is chasing them down.
Fun thing is that prophecy. Who is it? I'm trying to remember. William Sadler is both in the Executioner's story and in Demon Knight together.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Yeah.
They definitely reused a lot of people.
Oh, I would imagine
for like across the board, like for the movies, for the TV show, they had like a specific crew that they were working with, and it doesn't surprise me because HBO usually does that. Where
just in-house.
Yeah, they keep most of the stuff in-house and get, I think with the exception of like a few like special guests that they would bring on to it, especially for the intros for the TV show. They definitely brought in celebrities who were very popular during that time to like bring attention to it. And it was definitely for adults. Like, even though he referred to everybody as kiddos,
kitties,
like kitties and like things like that, it was like full on adults. He like has like a woman laid out in front of him at one point. She's like passed the fuck out and like he's like over her dressed up as Dracula. It's really weird. Yeah, it starts getting more like
the guy with no teeth.
Yeah, they added more sexual innuendos as the seasons got newer. Oh, so yeah, the most recent seasons, like the 7th season, he was making like sex jokes off the wall. Like all the like every single one probably had one.
I mean, oh god, I mean there was a ton of that too because they had the intro in Demon Knight.
Yeah.
Demon Knight had the intro. My experience watching the other one, which was Ritual, I was just like, I'll pick Ritual over Bordello of Blood because Bordello of Blood just sounded like a lot of
vampire movie.
Yeah, a sexy vampire movie. I guess I wasn't quite sure, and then I picked Ritual because it sounded cool. I was like, hey, Ritual, yeah, let's go see what goes on. And then it's like all Jamaican themed.
What the?
It takes place in Jamaica. That's the setting for it. And then so I watched it on YouTube first. In like a version that has like a little theater cutout on it and whatnot, and I fell asleep because I couldn't quite focus because the theater part like fucked me up. Okay. So I rewatched it again and it with a different streaming service entirely, and got more into it. But the thing is, that one didn't have the intro, didn't have the Crypt Keeper's intro to it because he does before, and then he has like a Jamaican accent.
Oh,
and he's like smoking a joint and stuff, and like there's a bunch of like naked girls around in the pool and stuff with him, and that's Ritual's intro. And then the one for Demon Knight, he's oh my god, he's like directing another horror movie, and like but the first shot you see is like a naked woman in a bath, and I'm just like, okay, yep, this is the world that I'm in now.
This is HBO.
Yep, this is HBO, and then ever since then, nope, and then it was this is HBO. So yeah, yep. So ever since that, but yeah, no, the movies were pretty much like I imagine like longer versions of what I think the show is.
Yeah, the show was like a short story, like horror short stories.
Yeah, exactly.
So they must have brought on like a set of writers to just be like, all right, we need full season of episodes, go with some short stories. Yeah, and then like they were very low budget.
They were talking about doing a trilogy of it. And they would each have, but they weren't going to be like anthology movies,
right? I think what happened was when they first started, it was very low budget because they weren't sure if the show would be successful. But people love crude humor, violence, and nudity all together.
Yep.
So it was a very huge success. And then as it went on, they got more money, and the Crypt Keeper got more animated because they had like certain puppets and like visual effects on his face.
I definitely. Oh, yeah. So you can probably see the improvement of the show as it goes on, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
As you can actually like see them just like slowly. A lot of cartoons are like that. I've noticed
Yeah.
too. Watching like the first season of SpongeBob,
It's
and
fucking
then watching
weird.
like the later ones, it like gets more color. It looks a lot better. Same with a lot of like older cartoons. But other cartoons aside, Eddie, talk about those comics. What were they like? What's that
Right.
deal?
They were like source material, right?
Yeah. Let's see. Should I go through the history of?
Absolutely,
for it.
Eddie.
Okay.
Lay it down for us.
So, EC starts off with Maxwell Gaines, and it's in the almost when World War II is over, and it's called educational comics. So they weren't about like horror and sci-fi just yet. That's when like Maxwell's son William takes over, who creates Tales from the Crypt. And the EC comics were originally like Bible stories, like just like learning stuff pretty much. And when Maxwell passed away, Will took over. He started making like Tales from the Crypt. He did like sci-fi horror, war, crime, like different various stories. And they were like bi-monthly, and they were anthologies pretty much. And so they originally, like in the comics, there was like three of them, three like hosts. Who there was like the Crypt Keeper, there was the Gatekeeper, and the Witch. And each of them have their own like origin stories in separate comics. But as these comic books got more and more like gorier and stuff, like there was one where a woman's severed head is like held next to a bloody axe, and her like mangled body's just lying on the floor. That sort of like got some people's attention from like child psychologist Frederick Wertham, who believed that comics were trash and bad taste and were corrupting the youth in the 1950s in the atomic family America.
So this was like an early rendition of sort of like the like Satanic Panic and stuff like that. Like these comics are going to corrupt the like early like violent video games almost, sort of like the media is corrupting the youth.
But his findings were
interesting.
Like he was just like his findings were not really conclusive. Pretty much, I'm trying to find the expression for it, but Frederick Wertham pretty much like felt like they were like reading was essentially bad. Apparently,
is my psychologist like didn't all he do was read and then it's like the whole deal.
But comic books were just like apparently bad for America's youth who were like rebelling and doing criminal activities and stuff, which wasn't really linked together entirely. So
didn't the critics succeed in like passing some laws?
Yeah, they created the Comics Code Authority, which is the censorship of where you're not allowed to mention horror or terror or have werewolves, zombies, undead, witches. Like
this is why people were so troubled when Dungeons and Dragons came out. And they were like, no, like it's satanic. And like we're worried about it like corrupting their children.
This is even early.
This is the origins of that.
This is amazing. I love this.
So what happened then? Did he continue with the comic or did he cancel it?
Well, the comic was pretty much canceled like by the mid-50s. And then William Gaines went on to create and publish Mad Magazine, which is still going on.
Fuck. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Holy shit. Okay.
So, but horror was kind of like stagnant. There was no like really horror comics for a while until like the late 60s, early 70s, when Marvel and DC were kind of reviving it slowly with like House of Secrets, where they were introducing characters like the Swamp Thing. And there was also publication of Creepy and Eerie, which were like pseudo tales from the crypt in a way. And there was also, I think, Vampirella came around the early 70s as well. So horror was like having a revival. It was just like, I think after over a decade or so of just no horror, but just romance stories, Western stories, sci-fi, or just safe, sanitary stories pretty much.
what I liked about the comics that I was taking a look at before was the inspiration that he drew for the comics actually came from people like Edgar Allan Poe and H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, Ray Bradbury even did some
Yep.
stories where he said they were plagiarizing his work until they like gave him a story to do.
Dang, that's one way to handle that. Oh, we're plagiarizing you. Do you want to write a story? And he's like, yeah.
I wonder if, because I mean the movies I watched Ritual and Demon Knight. I already went over the plot of Demon Knight, but Ritual was like a weird like a Jamaican voodoo sort of story. Like, but I think it's a different. They have a different. I guess according to the movie, they have a different name for it. I did not actually look up the historical accuracy of that because I literally watched it today. So, but because of that, it was pretty interesting though. That was an interesting one, but it was pretty poorly acted, and I feel like it's like I didn't feel like I got the full like Tales from the Crypt experience watching the movies. You know what I mean? I didn't really get the full experience, though I noticed like similarities in the movies. Like they always like to have a dude melting. If there is like a full body has to turn to mush in both of these movies.
Nice.
And I would imagine that Bodella Blood just have a giant blood body that melts.
Right.
I would not be surprised.
It probably does. We should check
Does it, Eddie? Does it have a giant blood body that melts at some point?
I think a lot of bodies explode.
Oh, that's close enough. All right, gotcha.
Is
Kinda
this
like
like
Big Trouble in Little
Indiana
China.
Jones style, like melting, like when they open the Ark of the Covenant?
Yeah, and they're like,
And he like melts like a wax candle.
yeah, exactly. And then there's some of them are just like, you know, like crazy, like it melts off the outer sector, then it's just the skull flapping around a little bit, and then it just sort of disintegrates after that. It was just totally fucking awesome to watch. But I mean, I felt like, but the movies are kind of I feel like they miss some of the slapstickiness and some of the fun.
Oh, really?
That I feel like the show is bringing. I felt like maybe the comics also brought too.
The
But
comics-
They have a dark humor to them. For
yeah,
sure.
exactly. But I was sitting in the comic shop with you, Eddie, like looking at the comics, and it was really surprised. Like the outer, like the look of the Crypt Keeper has changed since then. Like he used to just be like an old man sort of looking
like
thing.
a witch.
Well, he wasn't
kind of
dead.
like
Yeah, exactly. So I guess it's kind of interesting that they decide to make him dead, as if like that old show is dead now, but here's it like from the grave.
They might have
sort
done
of.
something like
And
that.
I feel like that's kind of what they're saying a little bit when by changing his outlook entirely and getting rid of the other two characters. It's kind of like we killed these old storylines, but we'll keep the Crypt Keeper because it's Tales from the Crypt.
Well,
Exactly.
when I was reading through it, I found a little section that was talking about the comics, how originally they had the Crypt Keeper, the Vault Keeper, the Vault of Horror, and the Old Witch, who was the Old Witch of the Haunt of Fear. So they had three main like hosts, and then they liked the Crypt Keeper the most, so they modified him and then brought him into the TV show.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like it a lot though.
He's
It's like paying
hilarious,
homage. Yeah, he's super funny. I need to watch the show, and absolutely need
His
to watch
laugh
the show.
makes me really like watching it. You get kind of like giddy watching it because he has like a really high pitched maniacal laugh that he does at the end of everything.
It, like,
And
gets you
sometimes he
excited.
starts to cough like in the middle of his laugh. He'll be like laughing. He's like, and like keeps going. So it's just like ridiculous. And then he's always in some weird scenario. Like if he's not trying to off himself, he's like trying to like cut someone in half with a chainsaw, and he's like telling him to like relax and like stay put, and the guy's like squirming because he's all tied up. He's like no like trying to get off the table. So yeah, they're like themed. So like one of them, he was dressed up as Santa. On the Christmas episode, he's dressed as Santa and like pulls off this like weird rubbery mask off of his like already fake face. So like it's just funny. Yeah, I'm convinced.
Where is this movie? This is the movie I wanted to watch.
All
this
it is,
show I wanted
just go to
watch.
YouTube and look up Tales of the Crypt.
I gotta do it.
Intro compilation.
Oh yes.
It's literally an hour long because there's 93 episodes. So you get like 10 to 15 seconds of his intro.
Oh yes.
And it's just back to back, and you get to watch all of them. And they get more ridiculous as the show went on. He has like moments where he's dressed in like modern clothing. So he's like in a basketball outfit at one point. He plays like a mob boss at one point. He like does a quote from Godfather. He has like the full outfit and like has like the noir voice. And so yeah, they really were messing around with the intros for those. So I think the writers were having fun with it. And it's part of the humor that they were inserting into it, because you watch the stories and they're pretty dark. Like they were definitely dealing with real shit, and the practical effects that they used for the violence and the horror is actually really good.
I do have to commend the two movies I watched for their practical effects. I do like all their practical effects in both of them. I just felt like They were just not as fun. I guess, you know what I mean? Like, I mean,
Right.
Demon Knight was pretty fun. It was probably it was definitely the better movie of the two.
That's a highly praised one for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And then but I did not really like Ritual as much. Like in the end, it felt really weird and rushed in the end. Like it was a good build up though. It got me really intrigued at first.
That's why it's a direct-to-video movie, and
Yeah, exactly. You get really intrigued, and then it just kind of like starts to fall over and over again after that. And I was kind of like, nah.
Would you guys want a reboot with M. Night Shyamalan? Do you think he would just kill it?
No.
will there be a twist at
Oh.
every?
Right. I was like, how is
No.
he gonna handle that? I didn't think he was the right person. So thank God that the companies were like, no, you're not doing it.
Yeah, I feel like Tales from the Crypt should have a revival. And we're having a lot of like anthology shows.
It would be extremely successful if it got re-released right now, especially with all of his crude humor. Like to make commentary about what's going on right now, or to have like guests on.
Oh man, yeah, no, doing like a modern day Crypt Keeper might actually be super fun.
Yeah,
Might actually be a lot of fun. But it needs to go to the right hands.
Yeah.
It needs to go. Who owns it currently?
well, HBO has been like hanging on to the rights for a long time.
All right.
So I don't think if anyone does it, it'll be them.
Yeah, exactly. So HBO will find someone to do it. Gotcha.
Yeah, but they've been doing pretty well. They're riding off the success of Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
So they're
I mean,
then we
filled
got
with
another
money.
year of Westworld season 3.
As well as Chernobyl and Watchmen.
Watchmen.
That looks interesting.
Have you guys heard about like the background on that one? They're using like the comics as source material
Yeah.
instead of like just ripping off the movie and doing or just redoing the show
Yeah.
movie again.
I'm
I'm so excited for it though. I want to see the Cult of Rorschach so bad.
Me
like I'm
too.
so into it. So into it.
Jeremy Irons plays Ozymandias.
Jeremy Irons is what other movies was he in?
He's done. Let's see. He's Scar. In Lion King.
Oh, okay.
Shit.
Okay.
He's
Wow.
done. What was that one movie that he did with Cronenberg where he plays his twin? He plays like a twin. He plays twins in this one movie. I'm trying to remember. It's Dead Something. It'll come to me later.
Right. Just blurt it out when you think of it.
Yeah. Then he was like Alfred in the Batman Superman movie and Justice League.
Okay, gotcha,
Holy shit.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Now I know. Thank you, Eddie.
You're welcome.
Learn something new
I'm
every
so
day.
bad with names. I'll remember faces. Like if I see famous person, I'll be like, "Yo, you were in something else," and then I go and look for it. I'm like, "Yeah, you were totally in this."
I'm terrible at actors' names, so it's really good that we got Eddie here to bring the party.
Dead
up.
Ringers. That's what it's called.
There we go. Thank you.
Sweet.
I
like going back through old like actors like filmographies after seeing them like in a recent film.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you ever gone back through like Robert Downey Jr.'s movies?
Dude, like watching he has some weird roles.
Yeah.
Like a Scanner Darkly.
Yeah.
That's-
Fuck, I love that movie.
That's great. It's great. It's just he's so strange in it though. Like,
Yeah.
It's the strangest. Like I'm just like,
well,
wow.
that movie was
It's a Philip
strange
K.
in
Dick
itself.
based book as well.
Yes, it is.
The style of it too, the animation that they used for that.
The
That was-
rotoscoping. Was
yeah,
it?
that's it.
Yeah, they also did like, what was it, like an insurance company that was using that similar animation at the same time when that movie came out?
I do not remember exactly which one, but you're right. There was like a whole controversy over it.
Really?
Yeah, because they were like, "Fuck you guys, we're doing this first," and then someone else was like, "That's a really cool idea. Be a shame if someone did it better," and then took the idea and tried to make something better, but it wasn't as good as the Scanner Darkly. But the rotoscoping was really cool to watch because not a lot of people use that as much anymore. It was more of a thing for like that they used in early film because they had limited technology available to them.
Like
So
Max Fleischer did that stuff?
Yeah,
Like Betty Boop and
Yep.
Superman?
exactly. And so that was like a really common thing for them to do. And then now it's more of like a stylistic choice. It's like releasing a movie in black and white.
It's all
Pretty
about the
cool. A
aesthetic.
standard becomes a style.
Right.
And it becomes like a flavor. Like, oh yes, once this was our standard, and now it's like, oh, it's an option. You can people can still make silent film. I'd like to say that. You can
Yes.
still go and do that if you wanted to.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see someone.
See some like modern day
Yeah.
silent films. I'd like to see some people do that with like. Feel like we might actually see a revival in like indie films doing stuff like that
Yes,
at some point.
definitely.
Because I mean, especially if you're trying to make like cheaper movies too.
Oh,
cut
yeah.
out sound, and all you've got to do is do video really well, and then watch it that way and see. Probably a limited niche group though that will like that. Niche.
How do you pronounce it? Is
Niche.
it niche?
Caramel, bro.
Tomato, potato, potato.
I don't believe you. No, this is like, remember when we fact checked something? It was the length of a feature length movie. We like fact checked it like on live on the podcast, but like we didn't even really find a definitive answer. You just like you need at least 40 minutes to win an award is what we found.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was really it. But that style reminds me of like how Disney came up with the idea of having like the multiple panels. So like when you were looking down through these panels, you would have like the forefront of the forest, and then as you went down, it was different layers of that forest, and that's how they created depth in their animation.
Yeah.
And they would start shooting film like that. So like they were just doing unique things like that. And so I was like, it's interesting to see it, like you said, turn into like a stylistic choice. As far as like what Tales of the Crypt was trying to do, they were definitely heavy on the comedy, but I think they were really appealing to people who just wanted to watch something that was crude, and they liked the violence, they liked the gore. Basically what the premium channels were made for. They like used that formula and were like, okay, we need something different. And they created this anthology series.
I feel like we've seen a lot of intersection between horror and comedy,
Yes.
especially lately, and even in some of our past episodes. I would say that, like, if we go back to our manga episode where we talk about Hideshi Hino, there's a lot of comedy in like the manga that he does, and a lot of it revolves around his family, and that's what makes it funny.
Right.
Because why would you like do that? And, like, why would you murder your whole family in your own comic, which is kind of funny. Like, it's kind of silly, you know? It's getting, like, in a way. And I feel like it's intentionally that way. And the Crypt, and, like, you know, Tales from the Crypt also is playing with this, like, horror genre flirting with each other sort of thing.
And they did it really well, too. Like, it's kind of hard to watch, or it's hard to make a film where they combine horror and comedy that well. And in this case, you get a really funny intro from him. And then you get into, like, some serious story about... like the one I watched, where a guy who thinks he's basically like executioner for whoever he wants to.
It reminds me a little bit of like what would you call it? Twilight Zone, where it's like episodic, where you've got your host,
yeah,
you know, Mike Sterling, except it's.
But he was super serious.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a goofy Twilight Zone almost.
Well, the Twilight Zone was interesting because it was designed to make social commentary for the time.
The Tales from or EC Comics did that as well.
Yeah. So like when HBO got their hands on it, that wasn't really like their intention with it. They were wanting to like just appeal to like a certain audience and like kind of create that entertainment. But with the Twilight Zone, they were for sure making commentary about the time period. And like Ron Serling even mentioned in multiple interviews, like what was his purpose with it. And he went into detail about how he would get the writers and tell them that like he wanted to be relevant, but in a situation that seems unbelievable.
Did you listen to that podcast, that Imaginary Worlds podcast on Rod Serling?
No.
It's really good.
That sounds super interesting. I watched a lot of his interviews on like YouTube.
Yeah.
Because he used to take them all the time. Like he loved being in interviews because he wanted to explain certain episodes because people were like, what the fuck is this? Like people were really confused about, for some reason they're really confused about the pig episode where like everyone's faces are pigs and like,
oh yeah, but Eye of the Beholder, right?
Yeah.
The doctor episode, where the doctor's office where everyone's like ugly, but they're not truly ugly except for their patient who is.
They were confused about that one as well as the one where a murder happens in a neighborhood and then everyone becomes suspicious of each other. And they start they accuse each other of doing stuff like that. And
they were having blackouts, I think.
Part of it was the blackout, yeah. And they were like, it was like paranoia was spreading through their neighborhood.
And aliens just dicking around with them. Just
yeah, exactly. They were just fucking with their lights. It wasn't even anything like serious, but it was like showing the panic of the people.
Showing that how something really small can make.
It was like, let's do this to other towns, guys. This is really fun.
Yeah,
definitely.
Just like seeing themselves tear apart.
Wasn't it aliens that were fucking with them?
Yeah, it was aliens.
Yeah. They just came down to fuck with humans' lights and were watching from on top of a hill.
Fucking aliens.
I remember that was something we read and watched in my 7th grade junior high class for English. I was like, oh, this is really cool. And that's what got me hooked into the Twilight Zone.
It's so good. Like, I studied it in one of my classes for like the history of television. And of course, Twilight Zone got mentioned on there because of how successful it was. And then when they were running it through again, like when it went into syndication and like there was multiple channels showing it, for some reason it was getting restricted on other channels where like people didn't want to show this story anymore. And then like for a couple of years kind of got suppressed until it, like experienced a revival because somebody was like, wait, do you guys remember like the Twilight Zone? And then it came back on to syndication for the company that originally made it. I don't remember which.
CBS?
I think it was CBS, yeah. And they brought it back, and then they were trying to do a reboot for a long time. It's like production hell.
They did one in the 80s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Then they did like an anthology movie.
Yeah, and they weren't nearly as successful. And what was cool about the Twilight Zone was it went from black and white to full color.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You got to witness that transition for the show, and then it was completely different. So you now had like two eras of what the Twilight Zone was. And it's cool to watch it all the way through. There's so many episodes.
So much Twilight Zone.
I wish I actually watched Tales from the Crypt when I was younger because I was never allowed to watch it.
My parents are really bad about like restricting what I should watch.
Well, I think your parents raised you right.
I turned out all right, maybe.
Yeah. But I felt like if Tales from the Crypt is more like the adult version to like Goosebumps, which was an anthology show, and there's not really a host character unless R.L. Stine was like one where he would show up to introduce like the double feature show.
For the life of me, I can't remember what he looks like. Is he a weird looking dude?
Think like Rick Moranis with a big ass mole on his face and bald.
Didn't they release a movie where like Jack Black plays him?
Yeah, 2 movies. And the first movie is pretty good, and the second movie is okay, but I'm not really big into Goosebumps as I was growing up because it's just a different flavor.
Yeah.
Still, it's more of like it's Twilight Zone in a way, and it's like Tales from the Crypt, but very light.
Yeah, because it was like straight for children.
Yeah, no one can really die.
Yeah, although like freaking Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was for children, and that was very dark. Yes, so like it could have just been one of those where they're like very intentional.
I don't even want to give that one a total like feeling yet because I haven't seen it in so long, so I'd like to go back and rewatch it.
Yeah,
and then I'll come back and I'll tell y'all what I feel about that show.
About Goosebumps.
Well, Goosebumps is also, I think like Eddie said, like I just don't get captured by Goosebumps as much anymore.
Oh, gotcha.
Because it's kind of like the same thing. But I am definitely down to revisit it though, and then see how it is. But it's been a long time.
It's a pretty goofy series, and it's just like I wonder how this writer came up with these kids' names because no kid has names like this in real life.
What were the names again?
Like there was Carly Beth from The Haunted Mask.
That's right.
Skipper from like. Who the fuck calls their kid?
Like an Archie comic?
Yeah.
It's just an Archie comic.
It sounds like an Archie comic.
Speaking of Archie comics, I really like the Archie horror.
There's an Archie horror comic, apparently.
Yeah, there's Afterlife with Archie, where Jughead's dog gets run over, and he brings his dead dog to Sabrina the Teenage Witch to bring him back to life with the Necronomicon. And when
it's legit.
Episode.
Yeah, we should do an episode on it,
on that.
Yeah, and then there's like Jughead the Hunger, where he becomes a werewolf. Well, it's like separate stories. Like Jughead becomes a zombie in the Afterlife with Archie.
Okay.
And there's like one with Sabrina the Teenage Witch. There's Vampironica, which is Veronica is like Vampirella pretty much. So, and they also like face the Predator.
What? The
yeah, they crossed over so much stuff for it.
All right, next episode, let's rock. That's not the very next episode, but eventually
it'll come up.
Rock, yeah,
we'll go through the Archie horror special.
Definitely.
There's so much Archie comics that it's just like crazy impossible to try to.
I never really got into Archie until I read those comics.
We should introduce. I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
It's all good, my man.
We should definitely introduce whatever our next week's episode is going to be at the end of this episode.
Yes, we're getting strict about setting our episodes so that we're not like, hey, we might do this.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of, we're doing that thing where you get organized.
Right, there you go.
And the content's going to be more organized.
We're only 13 episodes in, and we're still getting everything settled.
We're a young podcast, but we're a growing and strong podcast, and we're inspired.
It's like it's already at like 15, 16 hours of content.
It's pretty amazing, but we can do more.
Yeah,
and we're gonna do more.
The Goosebumps and even the Archie comics reminded me a lot of like alternate versions of Scooby-Doo. just because of the way that most of them would play out.
Same type of like morality and humor
yeah,
and stuff.
They had that humor with it. And then I did watch the new Sabrina, the Teenage Witch. It's very campy and like kind of cringy.
Campier than the 90s comedy movie or the 90s comedy sitcom.
I really liked the 90s sitcom.
I do remember it being a lot of fun to watch Sabrina Teenage Witch.
Because it was a totally different vibe than what you were watching for the one that got released on Netflix.
Right.
I fucking love Netflix.
Fucking Netflix. So what they did with the new Sabrina is they try to get really close to the Archie comics. And so they like even the intro looks like an Archie comic. So they were trying to stick to that aesthetic.
I think they were using the current comic, the Sabrina Teenage Witch art from that comic.
Yeah. But like the only reason I had a gripe with that show is because they have them in sexual situations and they're all like high schoolers, so they're like underage.
So
I know the actors and actresses are older and like in their 20s and shit, but like you could have just made them college age and it wouldn't have been as weird. But
like, it would be Sabrina the Teenage Witch then.
But like high schoolers, yeah, you're right. That's a fair point. Well, fuck, my whole argument just got exploded.
The whole point is teenagers, and you're like, but why couldn't they just be older?
It's about a witch like going through high school.
Yeah.
I just don't know why they made teenagers into like an orgy. Is really the only awkward part about watching that show.
Why is Stephen King like put his?
Well, I mean, like it's not like explicit. Like you don't see like penis and vagina. It's just like. No, they're all like piling on each other, like in their underwear, and I was like, "You're like 16. This is super awkward."
Oh wow!
Yeah,
never saw
Maybe it was like a Fast Time at Ridgemont High moment where the girl loses her virginity in the baseball bleachers.
Oh jeez.
Oh no.
Yeah, well, I forgot about that. But yes,
I rewatched that movie like
what a romantic way to lose your virginity.
So I definitely know about
with like a swastika on top of the bleachers or something.
Oh no.
Or surf Nazis or something. I forget what was
what was it? The swastika on the bleachers? What? It might have been Surf Nazis Must Die. Maybe that had that. I don't know.
No. It's in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. She's like reading the stuff on top while the guy is like penetrating her. And...
Oh, okay, gotcha. Understood.
She's obviously not enjoying the moment.
No. If you've seen that movie.
Oh man, I forgot where I came from for that point.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Oh, that's right.
Having sex.
Well, so it is. I liked the first season. It was like it's good to watch, and then the second season got really like cringy with the main headmaster of the school that they go to. He's like a terrible version of Dumbledore. He just like loves doing evil.
Well, Dumbledore turned out to be terrible in the end too.
Are we?
Like he was a dick.
I feel like that's gonna go into such a strong Harry Potter debate. Wait, so what? I need to ask you, why? Why
what?
Why is he evil or not good?
I think he's more just a dick.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, he did kind of put Harry through a lot of shit.
Like, who puts a minor through this kind of shit to begin with? Like, he faces a Dark Lord in his first year. He faces a giant snake in the second year. He gets like a wiggly, wobbly arm because
a boneless arm is what happens.
Yeah, and this school is supposed to teach them about witchcraft and wizardry, and they don't prepare them for the real world stuff.
That place seemed like the most dangerous place you could be if you were into like the world of wizardry. Like the only other one I could think that was as dangerous was the school where all those Russian kids are at.
Couldn't find like sea boat.
Right. So like them. Yeah, I would say that's probably the other dangerous place because the all girls school is probably like really nice.
Bo Battens.
Yeah.
I mean, he also makes Harry blamed for his friend's death. Makes him being accused of murder basically, and like working with him.
That's true.
He basically gets the public against him too at one point. It's like a political move.
Damn.
But yeah, definitely. And even then, there's other things that work against him. But
are we gonna have to do an episode on Harry Potter?
I don't really want to. I really don't want to. Anyway, it's not really horror. It's kind of like it's old news to me. I read all the books and I kind of just don't give a shit anymore. Too many people define their personalities by that fucking series.
That is kind of weird,
and I like it a lot. Like I think I respect it. I'm like that got me into reading. That made me appreciate storytelling and stuff. But it's not like the most amazing book series that's out there. Are you missing something by not reading it? Maybe.
Not really.
No, not really. I mean, the movies are kind of fun. Cool.
I think the reason why people connect it so well with the movies is because they were being released while we were growing up.
Yep.
So it's like you got connected
As the books were still being published.
while the books were still being published, while she was involved with all of it.
Also, they were made for, they like matched up with a specific generation of people. I'm
Yes.
one of them. So we basically read those books and we were the same age as the characters.
Yes.
A lot of the time.
We grew up with these people.
Really close. So it's like you almost grew up with the characters because every book they were a year older.
Yeah.
Every year there's someone has a fucking birthday, you know, in that book, and you're like, oh, it's this guy's birthday. He's my age now. I could be doing magics.
Harry Potter's like almost hitting his 40s.
Yeah, dude.
Next year.
Oh, that's weird.
Well, in the books, it's like 10 years.
Oh, right, because they go like to their children and stuff like that.
Yep.
Well, like Harry Potter was born in the 80s with Hermione and Ron.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what the timeline is for the movies are exactly. Like, if
I think
it's
the movies
current,
are progressive, are what's the word? Consecutive years. Like
Yeah, no, they are consecutive
They're
years.
like
yeah, no.
like 9-10 years of like their lives.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
they do hint at the fact that they get older and their children go to the same
Yep.
school.
They always have birthdays.
Well,
Always a birthday.
I meant like, was it the movies taking place as they were being released? Like, was it in like 2000s or was it like going back?
Oh,
That's
I
what I
don't know.
meant.
I've never bothered to look up whether or not it was
What?
set in modern day or if it was like a couple years back.
Oh, the books. You know what? I don't. The books are definitely not set in modern day. They're not. There's no computers. Oh no, that's
Ooh.
not true. That's not true. They have like a. I want to say the equivalent like an Atari. They got like that. That's kind of the technology
Holy
level I want to
shit.
say.
I never even realized.
No,
Because I just remember because Dudley gets one.
No,
That's the
he
only thing I
talks
remember
about
from the first
a PlayStation. Like, I'm thinking
In one of the books.
Yeah, like
Oh, okay,
the
shit.
second or third book.
All right, so it's pretty modern then.
Okay.
I don't
So
know what I'm talking
I'm
about.
thinking it's also like the first generation of PlayStation, which was early 90s.
So yeah, so it takes place in a very modern time setting. Then I didn't know that.
Well, actually, I distinctly remember. So going back to Sabrina the Teenage Witch, I like the '90s show because of the sassy cat,
Yes,
Salem.
who
Salem
was
is the
very
shit.
sarcastic and like was constantly just like berating Serena, like
Yep.
Sabrina, like all the way through the show, like always wanted to get his own way.
You know what I always wondered? I always wondered if Sailor Moon and Sabrina the Teenage Witch were connected somehow, just because there's like a black cat.
Oh, because of
There's just a black cat in fucking. That's all. That's
All
all.
the
I always
magical
when I
cats.
was younger, that's what I would wonder.
I
Often.
always wondered if Sabrina and Buffy the Vampire Slayer were like in the same realm.
Oh damn, that'd be a cool.
Just
combo,
because
actually.
just because they were around the same time, and then like ironically Buffy the Vampire Slayer like set the precedent for a lot of shows that were to come after it. Like it was so successful when it came out, and people watch it now and are like, what is this? So cheesy. But like it was exactly what people wanted when that show came
Buffy's
out.
not bad. Buffy's actually pretty good.
a really good
pretty
show.
good show.
Yeah.
You guys seen the movie?
Yeah.
No, I have not.
I love that Pee Wee Herman takes a long time to die from getting staked. He's like,
Yeah. That reminds me of, is it Zombieland? Where, oh man, who is it?
Bill Murray?
Bill Murray takes forever to die and then like fake dies and then he doesn't actually die. But then they accidentally kill him because he scares them.
Because dumbass Jesse Eisenberg has an itchy trigger finger against
Yes.
zombies.
That shit is hilarious.
At least he regretted doing Garfield.
Oh, fuck. I forgot about the Garfield movie.
He's also
Don't remind me.
Bill Murray's coming out with another zombie movie, The Dead Don't Die, directed by Jim Jarmusch.
Oh, shit. All right.
Eddie over here.
I
He
know.
knows all the names.
He knows all the names.
all the names.
love it.
Encyclopedic knowledge.
I love how Adam Driver says ghouls. You know,
Adam Driver.
ghouls. The
Um,
undead.
What
Ghouls.
did you guys? So overall, what did you guys think about each of the things that you watched?
Well, I didn't watch.
I mean, viewed. What did you think about the things you viewed?
I just read pretty much the history of EC and Tales from the Crypt publication. Pretty much, I actually was lucky enough to find ash cans on the day of we're doing this podcast. so I can probably read later for another episode. And then I wouldn't recommend maybe the hardcovers because I don't like how they printed the artwork in them because it always seems polished to me because I always still like the old like newspaper print
okay.
art and stuff.
Oh, so they printed it like glossy paper?
No, it's more of like they recolor it.
Oh, shit.
Or they enhance the color.
Gotcha.
Oh, gotcha. So you want like the old school look and everything, how it was originally done.
Yeah, the aesthetic, pretty much.
Yeah, definitely.
Those comics would be cool to have if you like found them.
Mm-hmm.
Like the really old, the first print
like
ones.
if you could find some first editions of those.
Yeah, the ones that weren't burnt
Yeah, for real.
in a pile.
I gotta say that I wasn't a giant fan of the Tales of the Crypt movies. Demon Knight is probably the most worthy thing to actually watch.
You should.
It's fun to watch, but I think I have to go see Bordello of Blood first. But my final opinion is go stick with the series, stick with the comics.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have more fun that way, and you'll get. I think you'll get the true like Tales of the Crypt experience more so than you will with the movies.
Yeah,
Or watch Creep Show.
I'm sorry?
Watch Creep Show.
Or Creep Show.
Yes.
Which was a love letter to Tales from the Crypt,
Totally.
directed by George Romero and written by Stephen King.
Where was it? What did it air on? Creep Show.
It was a movie.
It was a movie. Oh, okay. I don't know. What I'm talking about.
Shudder is releasing a show, Creep Show, and Greg Nicotero is doing the special effects for that.
Super rad.
Yeah, and Tom Savini did the special effects for the original Creep Show movie.
Random question: is Romero still alive?
He passed away last year.
It was last year, right?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. I was like, I'm pretty sure he like just passed.
Yeah.
Which is nuts
Yep.
because he had so much influence, like all across, like straight across the horror genre to be like, oh, like he was one of the like the main people. I was just thinking about it. I was like, shit, is he? Because I look up people sometimes. And I'm like, shit, this person died like 4 years ago. Like Christopher Lee died really recently.
Yep.
No, he died like last year or so. Why is people like posting like obituaries that happened like
that shit's hilarious.
a year or two ago?
Tim Curry was in Ritual. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh,
he was in Ritual. Yes, he was. He did make an appearance. He was a doctor. He plays a doctor.
I'm feeling
and he tries
so
to help
sad
people.
for him because he's like in a chair.
Yeah, he's paralyzed now. Not many people know about that.
Yeah.
He had
It's
a
really kind of
stroke.
quiet. Yeah, he had a stroke, and it's kind of quiet, and everyone's quiet about him now. No one really talks about Tim Curry that much.
At least he's doing the documentary on the making of the It movie that he
Oh,
did.
is he? Oh, so he's actually going to be doing part of that.
Yeah.
Probably like interview style.
Yeah, that's good though. That's
Yeah.
good. He needs to. I don't know. I feel sorry for him. He's a good.
Right.
I feel like he was just a genuine like swell person for the most part.
He doesn't
in
have the same energy
so
and stuff
much
as
stuff.
he does.
Yeah, I mean a stroke will probably
Fuck.
kill most people. Yeah, you're kind of done after that.
He's not fucking Trebek, who's
Yeah.
just powering through fucking cancer.
Jesus.
He's like not getting like slowed down at all. He's still doing
Colon
like
cancer
showings.
or something?
Yep.
Yeah, he had like fucking stage 4 cancer, and now he's like really close to remission,
Yep.
and is like still going to get treated while also hosting. And I'm
Because
like,
he's still contractually obligated to do a season's worth of Jeopardy. So he's just like, fuck it, I'll do it.
yeah, I
Just to
couldn't.
power
I
through
honestly
this.
couldn't tell if it was that, if like he's under strict contract, or if he was like he really
He
wants
just
to be
really
the
wants
host.
to be on Jeopardy.
Yeah, I couldn't tell because
Well,
like,
Jeopardy has been
people
his
are
career.
motivated by their dreams, Eddie, not by money.
For over like a 30-year show that he did, a game show.
Dude,
yeah.
that's
That's
his
been his
life.
career.
Yeah, he. Loves
You're
that
asking
shit.
him to give up his life. I mean, he loves being the host.
I'm not saying Alex Trebek should give up like his job and his career because he has cancer.
Sounds like a really good reason to give up, though.
No.
Almost.
Here's to hoping he survives. And
I do
continues
too.
Hosting.
I do hope. Keep going.
Right.
Keep going. If you love it, baby, do it.
Well, he's one of those people that everybody loves. Like people will meet him and be like, he's a cool dude. It's like how people have had like a newfound love for Keanu Reeves, and it's just
That
like
love's always been there.
just like, but now it's like there's more people. Like there's always been like a small group of people who are like,
Dude,
he's the best.
If you think that John Wick brought him into the forefront, wait till fucking Bill and Ted, the new one,
Yeah.
fucking drops.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to
Trash.
that shit. I don't
Well,
care.
like it's crazy. He had he had the Bill and Ted. He had the John Wick movies. He's gonna be in that game, the Cyberpunk. what is it, Cyberpunk
2077,
2077.
which I've been waiting since 2013 when it was first announced.
Damn, they announced it that long ago?
Yeah.
I didn't know that they announced it that long ago.
The new games that are coming out is insane.
Yeah.
It's like my wallet's already pre-empty.
Well, they mentioned, I saw an article the other day about that game where apparently you can get through the whole thing without killing anyone. They have they have like a pacifist route.
That's pretty cool.
It's probably going to be really difficult.
I feel like this is going to be like a very true RPG experience, like we haven't seen in a while.
I think you can do that in some other games like Deus Ex or something.
Yes. You can go through that without killing anybody. There was one other one. I can't remember it right now. But
those are like, but Deus Ex is like, it's like fairly old, isn't it? Like
yeah,
older game?
It's an older game.
But there's also the current games too, like Mankind Divided. And
are they any different though?
From the past? Like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you because I haven't really played the original.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Understood. I don't know, because sometimes like the Fallout games are like that. Your choices start to diminish more and more.
I got so disenchanted with Fallout after the fourth game.
Yeah, exactly. I just didn't care anymore. I mean, I liked number 2. I liked number 3. I did not actually play New Vegas because I'm a loser.
Wow.
But also, I'm just kind of like, I think I'm just like a purist. I want my RPGs to be sword and sorcery.
Yeah.
Always.
Honestly.
I always want them to be like that. I always want them because guns are just guns, and the guns aren't fun to me as much.
Right. Well, I mean, you get a more dynamic story if you have a sword fight.
Yeah.
The only successful mix I ever saw was like Afro Samurai, where he fights the dude with the guns.
That was awesome.
And like is all up and close while trying to avoid getting shot.
Yep.
That's like the only one I could think of. But
it
like,
is so cool though.
Yeah. There's stuff like that. I wish it was kind of like, so even though No Man's Sky was kind of like a failure and they like fixed it afterwards, like the first 2 to 3 hours of playing No Man's Sky was amazing.
Yeah, like, just trying to build everything.
Like,
get your
you have to like, you crash land it, you have to find the pieces for your ship, and then you go off planet. Then you realize that the universe is huge, and then you finally make like a first jump into another universe, drop down on another planet, and it's completely different. And then that's when you start realizing you can like start looking for resources.
You know a game I played that wasn't like, so No Man's Sky is cool, you know, but it never like gripped me with fear all the time. And I wasn't ever afraid really.
Right.
What did scare the shit out of me is Subnautica. Have you played that game?
I don't think so.
It's where you land. It's basically like you land on an aquatic planet.
Yeah.
And then you have to survive. It's kind of like No Man's Sky and like build a base there and like survive and whatnot. But you're underwater and you have to go deeper and deeper and deeper underwater. Then there's like, it gets dark. And then you're like underwater and there's a huge thing that you cannot see. So it's really like that game scared the shit out of me.
Brings
like,
to life
really, really scary.
The real fear of the ocean. Yeah. What is that phobia? Thalassophobia, I think it is.
Thalassophobia?
It's basically like fear of like the deep ocean because of like the darkness, the creatures that are probably there.
Because at first that game's all sunshiny and fun. Right. Like, I'm gonna get a lungfish so I can breathe. I'm gonna get this other fish so I can do this. Yay! And then it's like, go deeper. And then it's like, darkness and hatred lurk here.
Oh my god!
Angry things circle thee. Seaweed forests, and it's awful.
I distinctly remember playing a game, I think it was on the PlayStation, where you had like submarine battles.
Oh, that's cool.
And but like it was a certain aesthetic, and it freaked me and my cousin the fuck out. This is when we would like run to Blockbuster and go and rent shit. I hadn't mentioned Blockbuster in a while, so I had to bring it back again.
Yep. For those that don't know, it was a place you rent videos at.
Right. Would we really have people who don't know what Blockbuster is?
Dude, yeah. There are people that could be listening to our podcast that don't know.
Or Hollywood Video.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
fucking Direct or Dish Network, whatever the fuck that company is, they bought Blockbuster and then liquidated it. And now they're just hanging on to the name.
Funny.
Like, if I get really rich, I'm buying Dish Network, liquidating them, and then reviving Blockbuster.
And just never release Dish Network. You can't have it.
Yeah, no, Dish Network is done. It's dead.
Then you're just like them, John. You're just like them. That's not okay.
Late state
That's
capitalism.
a bad thing. You're not supposed to be okay with that.
you're like, I thought that would have a different effect.
Yeah, a very different effect. Oh my god.
Well, you know.
Can't make an honest capitalist.
What's it?
You can't make an honest capitalist.
No.
Gotta be a Wolf of Wall Street, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. What can you even be an honest capitalist?
Yes, you just get lucky.
How so?
Get lucky.
Who's an honest capitalist?
The guy that did the pet rock.
Fuck. God
That's
damn
an
it.
honest
That is a good
capitalist.
answer.
He
That is
showed
a good
up.
answer.
He fucking gave the people what they wanted for a short amount of time, made fuck ton of money doing it, and then dipped.
Yep.
There you go.
never
That
made
is
anything else.
that is what every capitalist should be. Unfortunately, we have dragons that like to hoard things.
Yeah.
Now that's my political commentary for the day.
Fuck. That was a really good answer. It's like, yeah, the dude who made the pet rock. It's like the dude who made what are those?
You knew what you were getting with the pet rock,
Right?
Insurance is bullshit and a scam. I don't know what I'm actually getting. This dude with the pet rock, I'm getting a rock.
You know what that
with
reminds
some
me
eyeballs
of?
on it.
The person who made the chia pet.
Fuck yeah, the chia pet's really cool. That taught me horticulture and
Yeah,
taking care of plants. That's a good skill to learn. That's
another one.
good. It's like a starter base for someone. Like you get your kid into wanting to grow plants with the chia pet.
Yep.
You know, you're like, all right, if you want it to look like if you want to give the dog a mohawk, you gotta place the.
It was
seeds
like Bob
correctly.
Ross and like an afro.
Yeah,
That was like the most famous.
But you
one.
could style it. You could
Yes.
style them if you wanted to. And I love that aspect of it. You could like style the chia pet and dig it.
Dang,
Yeah.
you're
Can
totally
you
right.
agree?
You can be like super positive capitalist.
Yeah,
And
you
then-
totally can
yeah.
if you give people exactly what they want. Like the idea behind capitalism is to make money and then eventually you stop earning capital, not continue to like earn
Yeah.
as much as possible forever. You're supposed to eventually like die. Otherwise, the system cannot function and continue.
Do you guys think HBO made a lot of money off of Tales from the Crypt? They
Probably at the time, definitely.
They made 7
Substantial.
seasons of the show. They made how many movies? 4?
2.
I thought it was
3 movies.
3 movies. Sorry.
Or
that-
HBO movies.
Demon Knight and Bordello Blood are theatrical release movies.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yep.
And Ritual is a direct-to-video movie.
Ah.
So
So they tried out different like venues of what they were gonna
Yes.
release on, and then they had their source material, but that was a little different. HBO wasn't like
money in the 90s is
Yeah.
different then as it is now.
also
Yep.
true. They there wasn't really like streaming services. They
No.
just kind of had like
you had
the
to watch it the night of.
yeah
pretty
you
much.
had the premium TV channels that.
But
you
the
could
network
tune
was
into.
HBO.
Yes.
Or you had
Before
to
they
like.
became but I think it was probably before they became exclusive. Right?
Yes,
So
they
there
were-
was like the HBO channel.
They were free at one point, weren't they?
Well, they were part of your
yeah.
cable package, I
Right.
would imagine, is what it was.
And then they started charging a premium.
yeah, when they got exclusive.
Well, they're basically like, we're not going to follow these movie or these television rules, so we're going to go into the premium side and start doing whatever the fuck we want.
Yep.
Which is why Tales of the Crypt was able to do what it did with all of the obscene content.
Obscene content. Yes.
So yeah, I would imagine they made a good amount of money, and then I should have looked up what they did after Tales from the Crypt, just to see like what next project they kind of rolled into. But I'm sure they did a lot, and I think with Tales of the Crypt, I honestly think that they decided to just end it, because like you said, they had made a good amount of money off of it, and then they wanted to make sure that the series was like condensed into whatever seasons, and then they didn't like dry it out and like keep running on and
Yep.
like doing
When the
trying to get as
studio
much
was-
money out of it.
When the studio was done, the studio was done.
Yeah, they were done with it, and then they moved on to something else. So I think it was a good way to handle that series. But it was cool that they pulled from such like it was pretty rich source material where they were doing that. But even the writers mentioned that they were using a lot of like other stories as like springboards to go into like a shorter story of it, or like how that sort of came about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they ended up doing like their writing room. So they were getting like one general idea, and then they built off of that and kept going and made like 30-minute episodes for each one.
Oh man.
There's 93 episodes for all of the TV series. And then they had that one that was focused towards kids.
The animated show on ABC.
Yeah. Which was like a super watered down version of what they originally made, because they were trying to
Did you
appeal to
watch any of
kids.
it or no?
I did not know. I just read a lot
That
about
was my
it.
only exposure when Tales from the Crypt, when that was a hot show, pretty much the anime show on ABC. So I was just like, okay, this is acceptable, this is substantial.
It was not successful. Needless
No,
to
I
say.
imagine it wasn't.
But the same
kids probably just didn't get
voice
it. It
actor
was-
who did the Crypt Keeper did that, the Crypt Keeper in the anime show as well.
Yep, he was continuous with doing that.
Mitch, we should also watch like the original early 70s Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror as well for just like a future.
I think we are. Next time we'll revisit Tales from the Crypt for sure, and then revisit some of the other content.
Yeah, I would really like to talk about like specific episodes, like when I go and watch them. The two I
got some
mentioned,
comics to read now, so I can just
So we'll come back. We will consider it part 2, and then if we still need more room, we'll go to like part 3, and kind of break it up like that because it is a lot of content. But I highly recommend going to watch the television show because it's enjoyable. So before we wrap things up, I did have a few final questions if we can get through all of them.
Absolutely, we can.
So the Twilight Zone was talking about how, or at least when I was researching it, it was usually trying to make some sort of social commentary. Why do you think they avoided that with Tales of the Crypt and instead focused on like the premium content of like basically giving the middle finger to all the rules and regulations of TV?
It was edgy. People like things that are different and edgy. People had their I mean, how long did Twilight Zone go on for? A long time.
Very long time.
Imagine you just being stuck with the same type of TV all the time, and then all of a sudden here comes this laughing, cackling skeleton, and then a bunch of people getting chainsawed to death on screen in front of you. Like, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, this is different. And then it's going to divide an entire fan base as well. It's going to divide people entirely, but because you're already going to have that reaction. It already had that reaction in the past. They knew it was going to do that, probably. So because of that division, you're going to get a renewed fan base, though. So you're looking for longevity with something like that. You're looking to like build something.
I have something. Tales from the Crypt is just straight up horror, thrillers, and suspense. Twilight Zone is more like science fiction and social commentary and suspense and thriller. It's different flavors of television completely. Twilight Zone has dabbled with a bit of horror, but not as much as what Tales from the Crypt does.
Totally.
It kind of explains itself in its own title, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they're like the same show, that they're in the same genre. Not at all. What I am saying, they do the same thing, though. They have your host, and they have an episodic thing where none of it's really related. The only thing that ties them together is the host. So, for Tales of the Crypt, what ties them together is the Crypt Keeper. Every single time. He always ties that show in, and you always know that it's time for this. Just like when Rod Serling walks on, this is Twilight Zone. Well, now it's... I forget his name. Fucking Peele.
Jordan Peele.
There you go.
He's the new host of the
Jordan
Twilight
Peele.
Zone.
There you go. I had to think Key and Peele. All right, Peele. Is it right? Was I right?
Yes.
I have 50% chance here that I'm correct. Fucking stupid. Anyway, but yeah, no. I see what you're saying, Eddie. But I'm the only reason why we're comparing them is I think because they just have like the host and then they have the content and they do it the same way. They present the content the same way. What they're exploring is different in each one, though, for sure, absolutely. So, but I feel like what I said before is that they went with something that's familiar. Here's your host. Here's your episodes, right?
Yeah.
Different, but they did the different things. So they went with something that's sort of familiar, and then they went with what is not nearly as familiar.
I would say something that's more similar to the Twilight Zone as far as making social commentary while still maintaining its presence in like the horror genre is things like Black Mirror.
Yeah. Outer Limits.
And Outer Limits. Shit.
That's another one, yep.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that has a crazy episode about an android boy that murdered his own mom because she wouldn't take him to the candy store.
Okay.
Yep. Because I don't want to. Do I have to analyze this right now? I don't want to do that. No, that's not. I won't later. That's another thing.
There's a really good movie, apparently, which I need to go watch, about a little girl who gets raised by a robot in like a really sci-fi setting, like in a spaceship.
That's pretty cool, actually.
It like explores like what will happen to a human that's raised by a machine. Yeah, like what would the effects of being raised by like an emotionless machine do to a human person and like their brain and psychology?
Mother? That's the name of it?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure that's it.
Did it come out yet?
Yes.
It's available. It's on Netflix or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an indie film.
So into it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So that one was like, that's one of those interesting ones where I want to see something like that. But my other question was, what is something that you guys want to see in one of these horror anthology series? Maybe like an idea or like a certain type of story that you haven't seen that you think maybe they could start exploring.
I would like to see a story involving illithids, because they're just creepy and awesome, and I would love to see like an actual story with like squid people that like abduct people's, like suck people's brains out of their heads and stuff. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Is this like a new version of, what is it?
It'd be a new version of like a D&D monster
Invasion
sort
of the
thing.
Body Snatchers?
Yeah, sort of, I guess. I don't know anymore. Everything's already been fucking done, John. I can't think of anything
Well, yeah,
original.
the best things are stolen.
Yeah, there you go. So, yes, I just want, because I have a D&D fixation and I want to see like legit D&D stuff on screen, and D&D has a lot of cool horror stuff to offer that I think would be really cool on screen. I think an illithid, like the illithids would be a really, really interesting like thing, like a town that's being run by an illithid or something like that, like where all the people in there are just operating off of one person, but they do their daily tasks. And then there's even the elder brain that's associated with it, so like the characters could delve under the town and then they find the elder brain under there like throbbing about and whatnot, and they're just like, oh, these people are being controlled by one mind, you know. And then it's like, ooh.
That reminds me of the literature that we read. A Study in Emerald.
Yes. Just like that.
Yeah.
But I want that on a movie.
With the old ones ruling over all of the humans.
But do it in like a small town or something like that to keep the story more condensed. But if you did like a whole world, that would be pretty cool. But
what do you think, Eddie?
A very self-contained story.
Yeah.
Pretty much. It doesn't have to be like out in the open. Like, right now I'm going back to playing Resident Evil 7 again.
Oh, nice.
And it's about a husband who tries to find his wife who is held captive by this family who are infected by this fungal from this little girl.
Yeah.
Which is Umbrella Corporation is responsible. But I would say just take out the corporation aspect of whatever horror they're doing and do something more with like fungal type horror.
Okay.
Like
interesting.
Biological.
Yeah, like kind of how that biological chemical can like change somebody into like some sort of.
Or you just watch The Crazies or.
The Crazies was interesting. I wasn't sure if like I liked it all that much, but I liked the idea of like the government basically quarantine like the whole fucking state.
One of the ideas that sounds like Eddie's fungal idea is Last of Us.
Yeah,
The Last of Us is on the clickers and whatnot.
Shit.
I think it would actually be a cool standalone film with just them and whatnot, without like the whole Last of Us like gameplay. Just a cool film would be rad for that, actually.
Yeah,
I think they are doing that though. Is there a Last of Us movie coming out or some nonsense?
I don't know.
Okay, I don't know. They might be doing something like that.
They could definitely make something because it's so heavy on the story that they like already have all of their content.
I'd love to see like some practical effects for the clickers and stuff for now. That'd be pretty amazing.
Just trying to make clicking noises with my fingers.
Just do it right in front of the mic. And then the very last question I had for you guys is, have you discovered any new fears in your adulthood? Things you didn't know you were scared of when you were like a kid?
I recently broke through a fear of singing in front of crowds over this weekend.
Okay.
And that was a big fear of mine, is singing in front of people or like just doing anything in front of a group of people. And so it was kind of, I broke one of those fears today. It's really, really simple, isn't it?
It's good. It's a good one though.
Yeah, definitely.
For some reason, I'm more able to do random things like that, like sing and do other things in front of strangers. But if somebody I know like really well is there, that's when I get nervous, which is really weird. So like anytime I had to do like speeches in classes, like the communications classes, totally fine, because I didn't know anybody in there. I was like, I don't give a fuck about any of you. But if like my friend came in to sit in on the class, I'd be really nervous about it. I have no idea why.
Because your friends know you.
Yeah, I feel like I'd be like, I don't know. I think I'd.
And they're gonna probably point something out.
Yeah,
to you afterwards.
That's fair. What about you, Eddie? Any new fears?
Developing relationships.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. What, like, you mean just getting into a relationship?
Yeah, like, future relationships of like, I've usually been the dating kind of guy, I guess, and then you develop more into past the dating phase.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
hunting for something serious now, Eddie. You're looking for true, lasting love, not just a night.
Well, that's never really been like a something I always wanted, but it's always
Dating is hard.
I don't do it anymore.
dating is also
I just stopped.
I just stopped
Fuck it.
altogether.
dating is a nightmare too. Pretty much.
Yeah, it's become pretty difficult. Just
Plus, it's always like you gotta pretend to be.
well, I would hope you don't.
was
Don't
like-
do that.
At least that's what I do. I don't even bother trying to act like a different person.
No, but I feel like people tend to like.
But I agree with you. Yeah, they'll give off a persona of who they want.
You have to be careful with part of yourself you show first.
Yeah.
You know, make sure it's your hand, not your penis. You know what I mean? It's a metaphor. A metaphor. You just go,
That's
"Here's
not a
my
metaphor.
hand."
People literally do that.
You just go, "Here's my hand. Here is my dick."
No.
No, you did it wrong. You're supposed to go, "Here's my face. Here's my hand."
I'm amazed at how many people messed up a chance of actually meeting somebody by like jumping the gun like that.
Oh, dude, I fucked up with women who are out of my league by being a fucking idiot and just like making them leave the table by being gross because I did something dumb on peer pressure from a group of morons. I'm not talking about it though.
It's okay. We'll cut this part out.
Oh, okay. So anyway, so I definitely like what I did is there was a concoction that had like water and hot sauce and like barbecue sauce and ketchup and stuff that they were all pouring in one glass.
Okay.
And then the joke was drink it. I drank it and I thought I was being cool. Somehow I thought that was cool. When you're 18, you think really dumb shit is cool. She thought it was really gross and she left. It was a chance missed, but really, you know, it didn't matter.
Peer pressure is just never cool.
Peer pressure is not cool, my friend.
Stop it. Get help. As Michael Jordan said.
I was gonna say, is that a Michael Jordan joke
Yes.
or meme joke?
Meme
Yes.
So, before we wrap up, I want to remind everybody that we're super easy to find. We're on all the streaming services. So we're on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play Music, as well as SoundCloud. We are also on Facebook and Instagram, which we are going to try to update as much as possible. I'm still doing the film recommendation of the day, and then we are going to try to include more questions where you guys can interact with us. And then we've actually planned out a few of our weeks so we know what we're going to be doing the next few weeks. So things to look forward to. I'll tell you the next 2 weeks. We're going to be doing The Descent and Dog Soldiers for the next week. And then the following week, we're going to do Get Out and Us. And so we will be doing a little bit more in-depth film analysis for each one of these. So really talking about why they made these choices and why we kind of group them together. Why are they comboed like that for, say, like a double feature? Because really that's what most of these are. We're kind of suggesting like a double feature. Like go and watch these together because they're in the same genre and things like that.
And some of them will be triple features in the future.
Yes.
Yeah, we have like the Apocalypse trilogy is on there somewhere.
Yep.
John Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that was pretty much it. I really appreciate both of you guys coming.
Always.
Talk about Tales from the Crypt today. It was awesome.
Can't wait to do part 2 where I can actually talk about the comics.
Yes, we will explore
And the show.
more of the comics, more of the TV show as we watch them. And we might even mention them in some of the episodes, like let you know about a certain episode that we watch. But I hope everyone has a good night. Thank you guys.